Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is barely 2 days after July 4th, 2026. And on our minds this day, the Patriot Front, the DC Metro picture with the black woman sitting and riding on a metro with white supremacists surrounding her. The America 250th anniversary meaning, what does it mean to us? The black teen who was found dead after hanging with an all-white group in Mississippi. His remains have now been recovered and an investigation is underway. Our reflection upon who we are just 2 days after the Declaration of Independence and the images that are emerging, particularly the images of the young African-American woman on the metro station. When we think about defining images, we think about Jesse Owens crossing the finish line in front of Adolf Hitler in 1936. We think about Joe Louis knocking out Max Schmeling and its consequences and ramifications for us. We think about Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston after having demanded that he call out his name. My name is Ali. Say my name. Say my name. We think about Rosa Parks sitting on the bus. We think about John Lewis and the dogs having been sicked on the protesters on the other side of the Edmund Pettus Bridge just before the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. When we think about Memphis, Tennessee in 1968, we think of images on the day before, and we think about images of Martin Luther King Jr. lying sprawled out on the balcony. But with all of the millions, and I do mean tens of millions of dollars spent to celebrate on one side of town the 250th anniversary of the nation's independence, on this day, the image that has gone viral and is in just about every major newspaper in the world, not in the United States, but in the world, is a young African-American woman riding public transportation in Washington, D.C., sitting in a seat by herself, surrounded by white supremacists. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Monday, and we're in our classroom with Ernest Krim. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, brother. It's good to be here with you.
Ernest, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward, and the next 20 is just about all yours when you think about these images. Your initial thoughts on the significance of the 250th anniversary and what this image means at this hour.
I think nothing in this moment personifies where we are as a nation than that picture right there. It says so much without us even knowing who this woman is. Even if we did not know that they were a part of the Patriot Front, it would say a lot for this moment. My initial reaction, which I'll expound upon further in the show, is just, is she okay? You know, was she okay? And was she aware of what she was immersed in? Because for a lot of us who are in tune with these things, you know, that might have been our immediate reaction. We may have known that was a Patriot front. But when she came across them that morning, what was her initial thought? And we can see so much on her face and we can buy into how we would have felt. But I'm very curious to know. And I think that the mystery of this is, honestly, in my opinion, hopefully we don't know what she thinks, because at this point in time, considering how big this picture got, we have to protect her identity and her safety by any means.
It's a powerful image. If you haven't seen it yet, you ought to Google at this point in time. As Ernest has indicated, we do not know her name. But the image is so powerful and it speaks so much about the moment that we find ourselves in, whether we are in Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., the city of Chicago, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, or anywhere in the United States. This image is going to last for the next 250 years. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More in Mr. Krim's classroom on Moving Mountain Mondays when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through this city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays right here at KBLA Talk 1580. Ernest Krim III is an Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, and hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Mr. Krim, a South Side of Chicago native and University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign graduate, is a former high school history teacher of 12 years who now advocates for social justice issues and teaches Black history to the world through social media with a platform that reaches roughly 4 million people each month as of 2024. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother. Yeah, here I am.
Glad you're here, brother. A powerful image is circulating around the globe at this hour. And in this moment, and I'm not being critical of that which I can see, is there, and I'm not being critical. No Black men, No white men beyond those who are masked and in their Patriot Front uniforms, attire. No white women. No Hispanics. No progressives, peace activists, advocates for justice. Just a young black woman wearing a green shirt. I think it says Originals on it, but I can't read the rest of it. Surrounded by white men wearing shades, masks, and uniforms. That's a defining moment for the times within which we find ourselves. Ernest Krim.
So much of this discourse, I'm glad you brought that up, because so much of what I've seen has centered on the idea that this picture can win an award. I've seen people talk about the fact that she was so brave. And I think that the broader conversation that we need to have is, for one, we can't look at these moments as an opportunity to profit. You know, living in this country the way that we do, oftentimes that's the first thing that comes to mind. And I'm aware that a photojournalist actually did take this, so that in some ways does make it appear a little different than just a regular bystander. But still, the question remains, for one, even though it may have been legal for her to do so, was this person okay with being documented in that manner? The second thing is, did this person make any attempt to ensure that she was safe? Did she feel safe? And that even when she was on her way off the train, you know, assuming that she got home okay, was there anybody who was on this train who was in the Patriot Front that attempted to maybe follow her or whatever? I think that we all have to use this as an opportunity, not to just talk about the fact, because I've seen so many, like, you know, Pulitzer Prize and all. It's like, but what about community safety? What do we do when we see this? And this is a call to action for everybody who claims to be an ally to our community, especially for Black women. As a history teacher, I'm also curious to know, when I first see something like this, is this just a snapshot? So I did look this up, because our perception is everything. We could assume that she was by herself, but maybe the wider image shows that there were people on the other side who looked like her. From what I was able to read, this was the reality as they in many ways bombarded the DC Metro at the time. So I think that's something worth noting as well. I think that we should take this as an opportunity then to say, when we come together as people, if we see this happen, what do we do? How do we respond? To your point, nobody was there who looked like us, and nobody who perceived to be on our side visibly was there. But also, too, this isn't just for Black men to say we should do something. This is for everybody who claims to be an ally. And I see so much in this, too, in regards to symbolically what Black women have meant to this country. When we say that she's brave, when we say that she's strong, she didn't wake up with that on her mind. From what I saw, this was potentially taken in the morning. So maybe she's on the way to work. Maybe she's on the way to school. Who knows, right? She didn't ask to be symbolic of this movement, and yet still she is. So we have to also then remember that Black women can't just be props for us as we attempt to reconcile all of the elements of democracy that have been taken away. We have to say, if Black women have done the utmost throughout this country's history to even make it last 250 years, what can we do to ensure their safety moving forward? Much more than just taking a picture.
You know, I can't get it out of my mind. I mean, right here on this show, the interpretive complications associated with what and who July 4th is, we have talked about for weeks. A year ago, in July, I spoke in Gettysburg, where the Battle of Gettysburg took place, and I asked the question before Kamala Harris's election: what will July 4th, 2026 and July 4th, 2025 look like under this present leadership without Kamala Harris being present? Right here on this show, we've talked about the first, from 1619 to July 4th, 1776, the first 147 July 4ths were just another day for the Negro slave. Just another day, a scorching day. A day of lashing and beating and disrespect, and no rights and no ability to travel, no Bill of Rights that applied to us, no equal protection of the law, hadn't even been added to the Constitution yet. Chattel slavery, right here on this show. We've done it for the last year. For the last year, we talked about 87 and a half years between July 4th, 1863 and July 4th, when Abraham Lincoln came back in November of that year to deliver the Gettysburg Address. 87 more years. Lincoln begins 77 years ago, comparing July 4th, 1863 to July 4th, 1776. We've done it right here on this show. And we've talked about how after 1863, July 4th would take on new meaning with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And there had not been another July 4th that's been the same, as women got new rights and Hispanics got new rights, and Rosa Parks sat down and Martin Luther King Jr. march, and I Have a Dream, and the right to the Voting Rights Act of 65 and the election of Barack Obama. We had 4 very different July 4ths in the first term of Barack Obama, another 4 July 4ths, very distinct and very unique, in the second term of Barack Obama. And now in this term, an iteration of July 4th is this image. And the profundity of this image isn't denial of a right to sit on the train or on the bus in the Rosa Parks comparisons that I've seen. By law, she has a right to sit there and they have a right to sit there. In other words, in America, a black woman has the right to sit where she wants, but white men also have the right to sit around her and give the impression of terror, whether they say anything or don't say anything. The idea that they travel in mobs is okay. And it's okay to express their whiteness in this context. I'm deeply troubled by this image. I think many Americans are, and this conversation isn't going anywhere. It doesn't mean that the iteration or interpretation of what you said is wrong at all. It is absolutely right. And so is mine. And so is every interpretation, whether this young lady says something about how she felt or whether she recognized what she was sitting in the middle of when she was sitting in the middle of it. But that's exactly what's taking place here. And it's not just taking place here. It's taking place in an Alabama prison when the prison guards decided to cut a Rastafarian's hair off of his head. It's happening in classrooms around the country. That's what I also see in this picture, when young African Americans and brown brothers and sisters cannot have their history taught, and the minority in the classroom of white students in the class now have rights to say, I feel offended when I learn about black people. And therefore, learning about black people is something that that student doesn't have to do, because the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is going to turn their back on educating black folk. And the great irony, of course, is that on July 4th, because of bad weather in Washington, D.C., white freedom celebrators had to seek protection in the African American History Museum to keep from getting struck by lightning. Well, they celebrated, in some cases, not just the birth or the history of America, but they celebrated their whiteness, and it was okay. It was so okay that we were uncomfortable, and we did not turn out in great numbers in what is known as Chocolate City. I'm struck by this, Ernest.
Oh no, it is very profound, and it also illuminates like just the possibility. Every black person that saw this image had the same idea of the same thought process, you know, the same fear, because we probably know what that's like. There are so many historical images that are reminiscent of this. And to even see this come full circle, we talk 100 years ago, tens and thousands of the Klan ascended upon the Capitol. And we see these things repeating. We see, you know, similar presidents that existed in the early 1900s. We see Woodrow Wilson. We see Donald Trump. We see these things repeating. And I just can't help but think, too, how often, like Norman Cousins once said, that history is a vast early warning system. And I think that in this moment, besides just thinking of what we should do in situations like that to ensure community safety for everybody in our midst, we also have to make sure, again, putting on my educator hat, that our kids understand how profound this image is and just what it means, because having our understanding of this, can you imagine how long that train ride would have felt to us, to her, not knowing what could have happened? Also think about the fact that from our understanding, assuming everything turned out okay for her, I think that's even deep too, because there's an understanding amongst those in the Patriot Front that all they have to do is just this little demonstration that they're doing, ever so often they do it, because these are folks who I am going to assume, once they take those masks, those hoods and glasses and hats off, probably are our local professionals, not just officers, but doctors and lawyers and people who have control over things that matter to us in life. So even though they weren't explicitly violent to her in that situation, the fact that they did not have to even express that, to me, illuminates the fact that they have control over a broader society that continues to be violent towards us.
You know, I hope she doesn't say anything, poor thing. I hope she keeps it quiet and lets the nation continue to stew in the consequences, the ramifications, the representations of this image. I hope they stew in it. I would hate for her to say, I wasn't paying no attention. I ain't paying none. I'd hate to hear that, and that just wipe out the whole point of the conversation, because we have to pay attention to our surroundings. And those of us who felt comfortable sending our children to all white schools or all white private schools, or send them to all white parties, and too often when we join their fraternities, they make us drink more liquor than we're supposed to drink. Some of us have been killed over history because of intoxication or asphyxiation, because we were made to do things to join their white fraternity that they themselves were not made to drink or to smoke or to shoot up as being part of their fraternity or be part of their club or to be part of their university or to be part of their crowd. You know, my son went to some of these schools, and every day that I sent him to Morehouse College, I have gratitude to the historically Black college and university that helped him shake some of what it meant to grow up as one of the only minorities in that environment. And I think all of us have tried to do the best for our children, but upon reflection, this is our reality. This is our reality at the grocery store. This is our reality when we get pulled over by the police. This is our reality. It is intimidating. It is fearful. The federal government at this hour in the nation's history is not on our side, and it is shocking. It is just shocking that this is where our nation finds itself at this hour. Ernest, I do know that in a moment we'll be joined by Terry Hoard Owens in the next hour. The great George Johnson, the founder and president of Afro Sheen, the lead sponsor of Soul Train and Soul Train Awards and a number of products, including Afro Sheen, at age 99 has passed. In our next half hour, both Ernest Krim and Reverend Terry Hoard Owens and I will talk about the legacy of George Johnson. And then when we come forward in the second hour, we will have the one interview that we had with George Johnson right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk of 1580. We're in Mr. Krim's classroom. Believe that. And we're learning something through images, not through a book written, but through images about how we feel about what's going on and what July 4th, 2026 taught us about America. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress should limit birthright citizenship. Speaking on Fox News Sunday, Johnson said lawmakers need to address so-called birth tourism, where pregnant women come to the U.S. or their children are born American citizens.
If there's some legislative fix, we'll advance that immediately. If it's a constitutional amendment, as you know, it takes a little more time.
Johnson also praised Black Justice Clarence Thomas's dissent in the case, calling it a must-read. Civil rights pioneer Reverend Ed King is being remembered across Mississippi after his death Saturday in Jackson. King was a white minister who fought segregation in the 1960s, helped organize with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and supported sit-ins at segregated businesses. He died at 89. And Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is calling for faster cleanup after a Boyle Heights warehouse fire left millions of pounds of rotting food inside. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
See and buy reptiles, birds, fish, amphibians, turtles, and exotic plants at the LA Pet Fair and Reptile Super Show this weekend at the Pomona Fairplex. It's the biggest pet expo in the world. A family fun event, July 11th and 12th. Get tickets at lapetfair.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's soccer team will have their leading scorer for tonight's round of 16 World Cup match against Belgium. FIFA, soccer's worldwide governing body, overturned the one-game suspension of U.S. striker Folarin Balogun. Balogun was scheduled to miss tonight's game after getting a red card in the U.S. win over Bosnia on Wednesday. FIFA officials reviewed the play and ruled Balogun should not have gotten a red card, which results in a one-game suspension. Start time for the U.S.-Belgium match is 5 p.m. Live coverage on Fox Sports. The Dodgers lost to San Diego 5-2. They took 3 out of 4 from the Padres over the weekend and still lead the Padres and Arizona by 14 games in the NL West. The Dodgers open a 3-game series at home tonight against Colorado. This afternoon, I'll have an update for you on Venus and Serena Williams at Wimbledon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on KBLA Talk 1580. We are sharing sad news. Sad news at the loss of a major figure in African American history. George Johnson Sr., age 99 years old, passed today. He was born in Mississippi on June 16, 1927, in a 3-room sharecropper shack. Following his parents' separation, Johnson moved to Chicago with his mother Priscilla in 1929. Johnson began working shining shoes at the age of 8 while attending Doolittle Elementary School, graduated from Wendell Phillips School before quitting to work full-time. Johnson worked during the day as a busboy, and in the evenings he set pins in a bowling alley. In 1944, he went to work for S.B. Fuller, a black-owned cosmetic firm, as a production chemist. In 1954, at the encouragement of Herbert Martin, a German-born chemist at S.B. Fuller, Johnson left the company and founded Johnson Products, focusing on the African-American male hair care market. The seed money from the company came from a loan of $500 that had been earmarked as a vacation loan. Within 3 years, Johnson Products found success in the women's hair care market, and with the development of Ultra Sheen, a revolutionary hair straightener that could easily be used at home Over the next few decades, Johnson Products continued to grow, focusing its efforts not only on creating quality products and also training cosmetologists on proper usage. In 1964, Johnson founded Independence Bank, and during the 1960s, he became the exclusive sponsor behind the nationally syndicated dance show Soul Train. In 1971, Johnson Products became the first African-American-owned company to be listed on the American Stock Exchange. That same year, Johnson became the first African-American to serve on the board of directors of Commonwealth Edison. He was one of the original founders of Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push. He has served on numerous boards, and he was one of the primary financial supporters of the late Mayor Harold Washington's campaign for mayor of the city of Chicago. George Johnson has passed now, and at age 99, he rests with the ancestors. Our very special guest in this hour, Reverend Teresa Terry Hord Owen, is the general minister and president of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. She's an author, an advocate for the church living out its true calling. She believes in anti-racist church and a movement for wholeness. She earned her Master's of Divinity degree from the University of Chicago Divinity School. Terry, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, good to be with you. So sorry that we're gathered on this occasion, but honored to celebrate Mr. Johnson's life.
And we are also joined by Ernest Krim. This hour is normally reserved for his classroom, but in the next hour, we will be playing the entirety of an interview that we had right here on this program, KBLA Talk 1580, with George Johnson. I actually believe it's one of the last interviews he actually did for terrestrial radio, and we're grateful to add that to the archives of both our show and that of KBLA Talk 1580. Ernest, welcome forward to the show as well.
Thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and Reverend Owens.
Terry, your thoughts on the passing of the late George Johnson?
Well, I'm at that age, Jesse, where the trajectory of history overlays my childhood and my youth. I mean, I was in high school in the 70s. I remember Soul Train. I remember the very first time you saw commercials for Black hair care products was because of Johnson Products and Afro Sheen Cosmetics. And we were all wearing some version of a fro or natural hair in the day. And it was literally the very first products that we used that were made for our hair, even given the variety of textures that we as Black folk have. So this is like a part of my sort of the melody of my life, having been put to rest. It's such their offices there on 87th and the Dan Ryan, just a legacy that cannot be forgotten. And I'm so grateful that you at least immortalized that interview. But yeah, the part of the rhythms of my life were using Johnson Products and being blessed by the fact that Soul Train was on the air, and a Black company, Black man made it possible.
You know, I even think Tavis Smiley had a afro in the 70s. That's probably true of most of us. When we think about the afro and the heads that have had Johnson Products in it, you've got to think about
Absolutely.
the Brother Johnson. You got to think about the Jackson 5. You got to think about the Silvers. You got to think about Prince when he had an afro.
And the Afro Sheen spray, right? It wasn't just enough to have it picked out. You needed to. The sheen was real. The idea of the sheen was real, and right. The brothers that we thought were fine were the ones whose fro was tight. You know, it was picked out, but had the sheen. It wasn't dry. It was, you know, they took care of their hair, pick in the back pocket. We used to get in trouble in school for having a rake, or some people may not know what I mean by a rake. Have a rake or a pick in the back court. In fact, my brother was told, don't do that at school, or, you know, it would get taken away from you.
Had a peace sign on the handle with a little fist
right,
on it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but these are the rhythms of our life here. Yeah, absolutely.
I still got mine.
You get some good lessons right here, brother.
Yeah, y'all pass that legacy on to me.
That's right.
And then, of course, Johnson Products also moved into the lie business, right? I mean, at a certain point in time, in the 80s,
relaxers,
he laid the afro down, and that's how some of us burnt our scalps.
Exactly. They were there for all of the trends and helped set some of them. And when they were no longer the only ones, I mean, all remember the the S curl and all of that stuff. But Johnson Products they were the pioneers, and they were the ones that helped us during a time when James Brown was singing "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." They were helping us to get pride and feel pride in our hair in its natural state, and being proud of how we looked and how we carried ourselves. And that's just priceless to me.
You know, when I think about some of the consequences of legally enforced segregation, many of our most successful businesses, including the funeral home businesses, became successful because white morticians and mortuary science students would not handle African American bodies, period. And they certainly wouldn't handle African American bodies with dignity. And even if they did, and the community actually heard that they buried or handled or touched a Black body, white folks would boycott even a white funeral home if a Black body had been handled by the funeral director. And it led to the growth of the funeral industry. I think, Ernest, as well as Reverend Owens, the hair care industry is the same. One of the reasons that Black barber shops and beauty shops have been so successful is because, in large measure, they simply would not touch, cut, care, wash, curl, relax, braid, pull, tuck, whatever it is that we do to our hair. They simply did not want to touch us. And as a result of that, Black barbershops and beauty shops and cosmetology and makeup and other forms of beautification products emerged. And in that process, of course, there's S.B. Fuller. Of course, there's George Johnson. Of course, on the south side of Chicago, there was also the Ed Gardner and the Soft Sheen product. This is part of the history, Ernest, of who we are. Ernest Krim?
Yeah, I also think about how this is a reflection of how we should approach our business etiquette. When you think about how Black beauticians are trained to be able to serve everybody, but also to be able to serve us. And no other community can do that better than us. Nobody else can serve us the way we do. And when he founded this business in the 50s, we have to think about how that overlaps with the Jim Crow era and how he's doing this in the continuation of the legacy of great folks like Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone. And one of the things I always tell kids and tell people is we have to always remember that just as much as there were people agitating for change, there were also people who on the other side were creating so that we have vehicles to move that change forward. So think about the symbolicness, the symbolism behind 1954, what that meant, Brown versus Board of Education decision. We think about, John Johnson, all of these things going on simultaneously, the lynching of Emmett Till, the Montgomery bus boycott, and us being able to see ourselves positively is because of many people like Mr. George Johnson. And also the fact that for me, what I reflect on is we have to have this consciousness moving forward with our entrepreneur class of people. We see a lot of folks gravitating back towards this from 2020 when George Floyd was murdered. We see a lot of folks now when the young man was shot in the back in South Carolina saying that we need to recommit to this. And it's a lot bigger than just putting money back in our pockets, but it's saying because when you do that, you're supporting somebody, just like when you tithe at a church, you're supporting somebody who's going to pour back into the community in a way that only we know is possible. Nobody else can do that for us. And he was a personification of that, in my opinion.
Reverend Owens, I'm thinking in this moment that when Dick Clark made his move to try and shut down Soul Queen, it would be George Johnson who would step forward as the major advertiser of Soul Train to help it alive, along, by the way, of Jesse Jackson, who threatened to boycott ABC and called Dick Clark the entire Los Angeles establishment out for the one opportunity at cultural expression that we had on television. That was a profound moment too, wasn't it, Terry?
Absolutely. And that you can have the resources, right? And I applaud George Johnson for not only he had the resources, but he chose to use them and leverage them in a very transformative kind of way. He stood by the show. He stood by Don Cornelius. He stood by that platform. He worked with your dad and others. And sometimes we have the attitude, I've got mine, you get yours. And just as Ernest mentioned, Madam C.J. Walker, who not only made products and tools and methods for Black women to dress their hair, but she helped them create their own businesses, both in selling the products, but also establishing their own salons. And so I do think Mr. Johnson was the next leg in that huge legacy of Black entrepreneurship. And so when we have the resources, we have to be committed to use them for the good of our community and to pour back into the community. And we just can't, people who are younger, my son's generation and younger, can't even imagine what it was like for a world where when there were Black people on TV, the whole family ran. There were no VCRs. There was no TiVo. You ran to watch it. You didn't even see hair care products outside of salons made for our hair. So Johnson products were retail offerings as well. That was new.
Terry, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are celebrating the life of George Johnson, a pioneer in African-American life and business and products. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. And we're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity, and you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
I think my LADWP bill is due, but nothing's come in the mail yet.
You still get paper bills?
Yeah, it's how I keep track of things.
Clearly, it's not working. You can't remember when it's due. You need to sign up for paperless billing. I get an email when my LADWP bill is due. I never have to wait on the mail, and I can see 7 years of bills in my online account. Plus, first-time signups get a $10 bill credit.
$10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show
Come on and talk with me.
on KBLA
Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're celebrating the life of George Johnson, and in the next hour, on April 2nd, 2025, George Johnson was our very special guest right here at KBLA on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. He is the founder of Johnson Products, Afro Sheen, Ultra Sheen, and a number of other cosmetics that greatly enhanced the beauty of Black people. George Johnson died today at age 99 years old, leaving an amazing legacy. In the mid-1980s, more and more competitors began entering the African-American hair care industry, and the Federal Trade Commission forced Johnson Products to put warning labels on its lye-based products without requiring Revlon to do the same. In 1989, Johnson and his wife of 39 years, Joan, divorced. As part of the divorce settlement, Johnson transferred 49.5% of the company over to her. Their son Eric took over the business that left the company in 1992, and the company was sold to IVAX for $61 million following year. In 1995, Johnson and Joan remarried, and in 1998, Carson Products bought the company. Let me ask you a question, Ernest, because I think you raised it, and I'd love for Terry to chime in as well. When we size our businesses that might start with a loan as small as $500, and then as we grow the product, there's always this criticism about the legacy of a Black business. When we take it to the public on the stock exchange, or when we sell it for large sums of money, that business increasingly is no longer identified as a Black business. Is that of any concern to any of you all, particularly in the environment that we find ourselves in today?
I think for myself, it is. I can't speak to the decisions that went into making that back then, but I think that, so it's difficult because it's a double-edged sword, because we live in a capitalist economy and we want our entrepreneurs to be able to scale as much as possible. And we also know there's a limit to that. I think what I'm more concerned about is what we do from the onset and from the foundation, such as the case of what Mr. George Johnson did. I think oftentimes, and just to kind of segue this slightly, but not fully off track, when we look at our art today, especially commercial art, and we are troubled with the messages our artists send to our kids and community, oftentimes it's because we don't have ownership behind it, or we don't have people who are investing in it from our community that can steer it in the right direction. So it's important that as these businesses continue to scale from the onset, that they have a consciousness at its core similar to what Mr. George Johnson had. And I think that you find that a lot from that generation. The various books I read, oftentimes those who were able to capitalize the most, no pun intended, were the ones who cared for us the most. But we do understand that because of where we are in our history, there can be a cap to that. There can be a ceiling. And if and when that does happen, when they go public, we still have to find ways to support them and to be aware of the direction that business might go to afterwards.
Reverend Owens? Terry, your thoughts? I think you're muted, Terry.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I would agree fully with Ernest in that in this capitalistic society, you don't want Black entrepreneurs not to be able to leverage the full value of what they've created, but you also do hope, as George Johnson certainly showed throughout not just his ownership of Johnson Products, but really throughout his lifetime, that he wanted to share those resources and use it to care for the community. As a Black woman, one of the biggest concerns I have with these hair care products, when they're no longer Black owned, and I think Revlon now owns part of Gardeners. I forget, Revlon and L'Oreal now own one of the major Black hair care products. Other companies like Carol's Daughter and Shea Moisture and all of these products that are more recently on the market, Black women will tell you the formulations have changed. Black beauticians will tell you in the salon, yeah, I know that was once made for our hair, but they've changed the formulation, so it's no longer being formulated in ways that care for Black hair. So that's perhaps just a real selfish, but it sort of flies in the face of the legacy when the people who purchased those companies are no longer true to the values of the company, and that was to create formulations that would help Black folks have healthy hair in our natural state, whatever state we want to wear it in. But many of these companies, when they purchase the Black companies, they change the formulations, and Black folks sometimes choose to no longer use them because they're no longer the quality that they had been.
Yeah, I think it's, I agree with you. I think that's absolutely right. That's part of the legacy of this industry. At the same time, how we see ourselves matters. And George Johnson actually saw us. He saw us natural. He saw us in a natural state. And so when we think about the billions of dollars that we spend today attaching braids to our heads, attaching dreadlocks that we didn't grow to our heads, and attracting hair that don't match your features to your head, that don't look like your mama's hair or your daddy's hair. Billions.
Tracks and mesh. Tracks and mesh and all of this stuff. Yeah.
We have played our own role our own role in undermining some of these companies. Mr. Johnson's interview was on his book, Afro Sheen, How I Revolutionized an Industry with the Golden Rule from Soul Train to Wall Street. Afro Sheen by George E. Johnson. It's on the screen right now for those of you who are enjoying our program on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm very grateful that our two regular contributing hosts, Ernest Krim, who has a classroom right here on Monday on Moving Mountain Mondays, as well as Reverend Terry Howard Owens, the Faith Not to Fall, who joins us faithfully. Both of them join us faithfully every week right here at KBLA. I'm extremely grateful. From the next voices that you will be hearing right here at KBLA, it will be an interview that I had with Mr. Johnson in April of this year, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. It is one of the few interviews that he did on terrestrial radio, and I'm grateful that he shared his thinking, his thoughts on his last book and his life's work right here with our community on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with George Johnson when we come forward right here at KBLA. He died today at age 99.
all of the things that were going on around the building. And then when he stepped inside the building and he saw Francine Hurst, who was waiting for him on the upper level, and I was standing there also with Francine, and he had Bevels with him and a couple other people.
James Bevels.
But when he looked around, he said this is Black power. And that was a great compliment to me. Anyway, we had a wonderful luncheon, and in that luncheon he asked me if I would help him to carry out a program in Chicago that had been very successful in Philadelphia. And he asked me if I could get together a bunch of serious businessmen, and he'd like to introduce Operation Breadbasket in our cafeteria. And I got the guys to come, about 30, maybe 30 or 35. And he introduced the program that he was intending to bring to Chicago called Operation Breadbasket. And at the same time, he introduced Jesse Jackson as the founding director of Operation Breadbasket. And that's how I started out with that's what happened when you visited me. And I was very supportive of Jesse already, and supportive of Operation Breadbasket. In fact, Operation Breadbasket not only helped other Black businessmen, it helped It helped JPC also. We were able to get some of our, in fact, quite a few of our products into grocery stores where we had not had success in getting the grocery stores to carry our UltraSheen, AfroSheen, and ultra-wave hair culture, many of our products.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
This is Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, the Honorable George Johnson is our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving Black oasis just 50 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% Black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of Black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of Black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Swar, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Bring spring to your door with Target Circle 360. Get all you need for Easter hosting, spring get-togethers, and more with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. From Easter basket goodies to fresh florals, getting everything the same day is easy. Open the Target app and bring the magic of the season to your door with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. Visit target.com/circle or the Target app for more details. Subscription required. Same-day delivery is subject to terms. Applies to orders over $35.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Radio Show. Next special guest is Mr. George E. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
Hillary, let me ask you a question just before I go back to my conversation with Mr. Johnson. And that is, it must have been an extraordinary feeling and opportunity for you to have the privilege of documenting his life. What was that like, and how extraordinary was it to you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an African proverb that states that when an elder dies, it's like a library burns down. And so 3 years ago, when this very much alive and vibrant, then 94-year-old African-American elder contacted me, I didn't know a whole lot about him, except that I sat between my mother's knees and had Afro Sheen, Ultra Sheen put on my hair every day. And when I turned a teenager, cut it and wore Afro Sheen, and about his business building during the 70s and 80s. But I knew I needed to drop everything and clear my plate. I needed to do two things. One, to help him recall and catalog and write about nearly 100 years of memories so that today's leaders, dreamers, strivers, and entrepreneurs can hear his stories directly from him while he's energetic and able to tell them directly. And then also to present the information in historical context so people today can understand the trailblazing nature of his accomplishments and also how incredible they were in the context of those times. So it was an amazing experience and an honor and a privilege of a lifetime.
Mr. Johnson, let me raise a question that might be a little bit risque, in that coming out of the 60s, I remember my father when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and the entire movement of some levels of Black power and I am somebody. But clearly, if there ever was a person who was sensitive to the image of Black men and Black women, how they presented themselves, their self-images of how they saw themselves coming out of the civil rights period, the grooming of their hair, the way in which they took care of themselves, there is probably no figure more responsible for Black pride in the history of our nation than the leadership that you shown by the founding and the formation of your company, and the care with which you looked at Black men, Black women, and brought forward their beauty as well as their dignity. Your thoughts, Mr. Johnson?
Oh, thank you so much for those compliments. I responded to what was going on in our community. And for instance, in that meeting that I had with Dr. King, at the same time, I was meeting with him and trying to help him. And incidentally, at that meeting, he also let me know that he wasn't able to make his payroll. And then the bank we made him a loan of over $100,000.
Wow.
But anyway,
that's 1.2 million today.
Wow. Wow.
So while we were having a nice conversation, it was also in the back of my mind that Dr. King was kind of giving me a little problem with my business, with selling Ultra Sheen. And because he was preaching Black is beautiful and be yourself, and that shifted a lot of my customers from using hair straighteners or hair relaxers to being natural. So we jumped on right away and created Afro Sheen. And that saved us. That kept us growing instead of slowing us down. We with Afro Sheen on the market, and the way Vince Colors started the advertising behind Afro Sheen, it was really it was powerful, and it was a blessing.
In a real sense, it obviously had to be. And I have to remind people, we're not just talking about the products. We're talking about the pick. We're talking about the pick with the fist on it. I mean, we're talking about the fold-up red, black, and green pick where you could put it completely in your pocket. I mean, all of that which every barber and beautician in the United States who handled Black hair, male and female beauticians and barbers, had to come by way of Mr. Johnson's very healthy psychological vision of us as a people. And that would lead to what? Your sponsorship of Soul Train. Share with us your relationship with Soul Train and some of the initial problems that it had finding a sponsor.
I had tried for a couple of years before we got involved with Soul Train to find a way to make television work for us. And it was not easy, and I'd like to tell you that we had a good result, but we didn't. I won't even go into the details about that. But those 2 hour variety shows that we produced were really very good. However, they weren't financially rewarding the way it ought to be. Anyway, the very first advertising agency I had an executive on my account named Tom Kuhn. And Tom called me one day and said, I think there's a program you ought to take a look at. And it was John Cornelius had a copy of Dick Clark's Bandstand, all black children on that show. And I looked at it and I thought it was great when I saw it. But when I saw it on TV, it was only in black and white, and it didn't have the same energy that I saw when I visited that program. Anyway, after meeting Don and talking to him, I decided I'd make a 30-minute color pilot. And when I saw that, I saw what I wanted to see. I saw the energy. I saw fabulous dancing, and I sat down with Don, and of course Don didn't have any money at the time, but we formed a company, and he had half the company and JPC had half the company, but I put up all the money. JPC put up all the money, and that's how Soul Train started. The program he had that was in black and white was not called Soul Train. While Don and I were getting together, he came up out of the blue with the title Soul Train, and that's how we started.
I want to remind our listeners that Hillary, it wasn't just the dancing and the programming of Don Cornelius and Soul Train. It was also, in the middle of the program, African American entertainers, the Jackson 5, the Temptations, Gladys Knight, and the Pips, all of whom were product users of Ultra Sheen, Afro Sheen, and taking advantage of the opportunity to showcase their own music live to tape. On a Saturday afternoon, I remember leaving Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push, and coming home, which Mr. Johnson, who not only supported Martin Luther King Jr.'s payroll, but largely supported my father's payroll as well. He gave Black culture an opportunity. Hillary?
Yeah, and not just in the United States, he helped all these artists that are classic artists that we all know now become known around the world. So he helped, his funding of Soul Train helped propel our culture, our arts, our music, our style, our fashion, our verve, all around the world. And I wanted to mention something about Ultra Sheen as well. A thing that we take for granted today, or perhaps not so much these days, is Black people's ability to access the professional part of the workforce. And I wanted to draw our attention to the fact that in 1970, which was around the time JPC went public and he sponsored Soul Train, only 5% of Black people were able to access the mainstream workplace, as opposed to 50% of white people. So Ultra Sheen and the ability for Black women to alter their appearance to make themselves look more like the people who were likely to hire them allowed Black women to access the mainstream workplace, and Black people to access mainstream America. And those images that you're talking about were so forward thinking that there were not Black people who were figure skaters at the time, but there were in Afro Sheen ads or Ultra Sheen ads. There were not as many Black authors. So I wondered, as I look back on the ads, whether I as a young girl got the idea that I could figure skate, which I did from looking at these ads. I'm an author. right? So in these ads, that Black people were journalists, they were sculptors, they were flight attendants, which Black women weren't able to do at the time. And so both through the products, through employing Black people, through his generosity, which you're beginning to speak to, and through the forwarding of African-American life and culture, the dignity of us all around the world, Mr. Johnson was a tremendous trailblazer and groundbreaker in ways that we might take for granted today.
Speaking of being a pioneer and a trailblazer, so many African Americans may not realize that Mr. Johnson's company was the first major African American owned company to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. We have African American traders today. We have companies on the exchange today. Mr. Johnson, when you first broke down that door, I'm sure there were people who said that it couldn't be done.
Well, would you like me to speak about how we went public?
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Okay. As we were growing in the 60s, we were growing by leaps and bounds. And we attracted the attention of the stockbrokers. And about 1967, I was visited by several. And one that appealed to me was Hornblower and Weeks. And they came with the idea that I should take the company public. It was not an easy decision, but that was a real solution for me in terms of my financial situation. All the money that we made, I kept it in the company. I didn't pay myself a salary. So I accumulated a lot of money in JPC. And I didn't want to pay myself a salary because at the time, personal income tax was between 60 and 71%. But they explained to me that if I went public, I could, whatever the money came from selling stock, that would be taxed at 28%. That made sense to me.
To all of us.
So it was a kind of a personal decision in that respect. Also, though, it also gave us the opportunity, if we needed it, to cap the capital market if we needed money to finance our growth. Fortunately, we didn't need that, but it did give me some financial stability.
Mr. Johnson, we have about 2 minutes before we come back from our forward break. Are there lessons that African Americans need to understand about the risks associated with entrepreneurship?
Repeat that, Jesse.
Risks that you had to take. You were willing to take risks to be a businessman.
Absolutely. But Jesse, I had no choice. I had no choice. In my view, the Lord put me in business, and I try, and as long as I stuck with the Lord the way I did, we prospered. And I would say, I really believe what I'm saying to you. I think that my opportunity to go into business was divinely ordained. To give you an example, the day before, you might not understand what I'm saying unless you read the book, but the day before I met Orville Nelson, I was 25 years old. I had a wife. I had 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. I was working 2 regular jobs and washing cars on the weekend and had no future. The next day, I'm getting ready. I'm at Fuller Products Company. I'm finishing my day's work there. And I get on the elevator at the 5th floor. The elevator stops on the 3rd floor. And this gentleman gets on the elevator, and then when I looked at him, I blurted out without thinking, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And he said to me, "I came here because this is a black company. And I wanted to see if I could get Mr. Fuller to make me a better product because the product I'm using is giving me a lot of difficulty."
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Mr. George Johnson. Mr. George Johnson, when we come forward, sir, we're going to pick right back up on that meeting that you had with S.B. Fuller.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Doug Davis with 4 things you should know with BIN News. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is black, praised the dismissal of his corruption case against him, calling it unjust. The case was tossed with prejudice by a federal judge following the DOJ's order to drop it just a day before Adams' Democratic primary filing deadline. The Supreme Court upheld the FDA's decision to deny approval for flavored e-cigarettes, overturning an appeals court ruling. Despite the FDA's denying of many vape-related products, flavored e-cigarettes remain available across the country, mainly in black neighborhoods. California, 2 proposed bills to ban transgender athletes from competing in female sports have been rejected. Assembly Bill 89 would have established a ban on athletes born as male to compete on a girls' interscholastic sports team. And former President Obama apologized for photobombing a family's cherry blossom photos during his morning walk at the Tidal Basin. The former president shared the moment on Instagram, writing, "I hope you enjoyed peak bloom. My bad for stepping into the shot." Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
When you visit the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, the way you see the world begins to change. You realize that the more you encounter amazing species, the more you can't imagine a world without them. San Diego Zoo Safari Park. See conservation from a new perspective.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Here's the major question facing the UCLA women's basketball team as they prepare for their Final Four matchup Friday against Connecticut. If the game comes down to decisions and adjustments, can UCLA coach Corey Close outcoach Gina Auriemma? On paper, the coaching battle looks like a mismatch. This is the first time Close has taken a team to the Final Four. Friday's game represents the 24th time Auriemma has led UConn to the Final Four. Auriemma has won 11 national titles at UConn and has had 6 undefeated seasons. Auriemma's experience with championships on the line is part of the reason why UConn is an 8.5-point favorite. How Close handles this pressure-packed moment could be a deciding factor for UCLA in their first Final Four appearance. UCLA and UConn tip off at 6 p.m. Friday night. Live coverage on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, and it's almost time to celebrate KBLA's 4th anniversary, coming up Juneteenth 2025. We'll be marking the achievement with 4 key community events, including a special symposium, luncheon, and brain trust hosted by me entitled The State of Black Women in Los Angeles. Keep it locked here for details on how to join us for this groundbreaking symposium examining the unique challenges, triumphs, and contributions of Black women in Los Angeles in the areas of education, healthcare, community leadership, cultural and political contributions. This public convocation will provide a critical forum to address the specific social, economic, and political realities facing Black women in LA today. We'll go live with a radio broadcast and YouTube live stream, a public discussion, and a private dialogue with some of LA's most impactful women. It's an affirmation of Black women standing at the intersection of race and gender in times of adversity while demonstrating remarkable resilience and leadership. We will listen and we will speak out and be heard, all in service of finding opportunities and solutions. Please plan to join us in celebrating our 4th anniversary by amplifying the voices of Black women. For more on our symposium and 4 events celebrating 4 years on the air, simply stay tuned or keep an eye on KBLA1580.com and help make this Juneteenth more jubilant with all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
This ad is brought to you by Care for the Injured, which is not a law firm. Past results don't guarantee future outcomes. Recovery depends on case details. Did you or a loved one take the birth control shot Depo-Provera and later develop a brain tumor? You are not alone. Thousands of women in the U.S. have been affected and deserve compensation. Depo-Provera, a widely used birth control injection, has been linked to serious brain tumors like meningiomas. If you use Depo-Provera for at least a year and were diagnosed with a brain tumor, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Our network of attorneys fight for the rights of women like you, women who were never warned about the risk of birth control shots. Our caring legal team is standing by to help you get the justice and compensation you deserve. The sooner you call, the sooner we can begin working on your case. Call 800-256-1276 now for a free confidential case review. That's 800-256-1276. Call 800-256-1276.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is none other than Mr. George Johnson, the founder of Johnson Products Company, one of the most unsung heroes in the 20th century, and yet one of the most pivotal. Behind Martin Luther King, there was George Johnson. Behind Jesse Jackson, there was George Johnson. Behind the campaign of Harold Washington to be mayor of the city of Chicago, Harold Washington. Behind Barack Obama and many others. Silent, quiet voice, but a very, very forceful presence in the history of the United States, Mr. George Johnson. Mr. Johnson, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, just before the break, I'm sorry, sir.
I was just going to pick up where I left off.
Oh, yes, sir. Just before the break, you were talking about being on that elevator.
Yes. And as I was saying, this gentleman let me know that he was trying to get S.B. Fuller Company to make a better product for him. But Mr. Fuller had to tell him that he didn't have any time to work, to do what he wanted to try to make him a better product. And he didn't intend to be in the barber business. So I said to him, I don't know what you're talking about, but I work in the lab. And if you have a card, give me your card. He did, and I got his card. And I said, I'll come by and see if I can help you. And I did, eventually. Took about 2 months. But eventually I did go by. I saw what was going on. And I realized that what he needed most for his product was to emulsify it. I had about 10 years of experience with emulsifiers. So I thought at that time that all I had to do was emulsify that product because it wasn't emulsified. And that's why the alkalinity was getting free and burning and causing discomfort on the customers. Anyway, it took 9 months to solve his problem. Eventually, we did and created the first emulsified hair straightener ever made. And that made all the difference. Because it was emulsified, it was unique. It was unique, not unique, but unified. And it stopped having that discomfort, it stopped the burnings, and it was great. All a person had to do was use it, and they would see the difference.
I now understand what you mean by divinely called. Right place, right time, right teachings, right understanding, right scholarship, right chemical understanding of emulsification, and boom.
Yeah.
The presence of the divine.
Anyway, but that's what that did for me. The day that he said, we made the product and he did the experimenting with it. The day he said, this is it, don't touch it. I just jumped up and said, well, we ought to market it. I never thought about marketing or anything like that. But I said, we ought to market this. He asked me what it cost. I gave him a sum of $500. I knew I could borrow $250 because I had borrowed money before from this small loan company, and I knew I figured I could get another loan for $250. So I said $500. He wrote me a check for $250. But anyway, you probably know the story of how I got that. They wouldn't. The loan company I'd been a customer for maybe 2 or 3 years didn't give me the money, but I had to tell a little white lie. And I went to another branch of that company and told the loan officer that I needed $250 to take my wife to California on a vacation. And I got the money in 20 minutes.
Wow. Hillary, let me ask you a quick question. You've obviously written about the lives of a number of significant people in our community, and you've obviously studied history. Part of Hillary's formal education includes Princeton University, and she obviously lives in Philadelphia. Hillary, place Mr. Johnson's life for us in the proper historical context.
Thank you for asking that question. It's quite remarkable. It's not often that you get to sit with an almost centenarian. So Mr. Johnson was born in the Cotton South, and the story sweeps north. His mother brought him north through the Great Migration. He arrived in Chicago right at the onset of the Great Depression. He lives through the Depression years, returns to the Cotton South to visit his father and grandparents, comes back north, stays in Chicago. And then the story progresses through World War II, through the civil rights years. He started JPC in 1954, which is the year that we know as the beginning of the civil rights era. Brown versus Board was in 1954, so he started JPC right before Brown versus Board. The story sweeps into the 1960s, the Black Power and the Black Power arts movements, and then into the 70s, 80s, and beyond. So we had the opportunity, in parallel to his story, to share a lot of untold African-American history. The greats of Mr. Johnson's era and even younger, many of them didn't have access to mainstream publishing at that time because publishing and the media were not open to us or not open to our stories. We also had the opportunity to tell a lot of suppressed history and history that people still don't want us to know today, and it is causing them to do things like ban books and want to shut down libraries in the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So it's really important that this book is coming out now. And Mr. Johnson sensed that a Jim Crow 2 moment was coming. And so in the book, we were thoughtful about speaking to some of the conditions that we're actually experiencing right now. And there are a lot of lessons in the book for today's strivers, dreamers, and entrepreneurs, either because they intend to be entrepreneurs or life circumstances are now forcing them to consider other revenue streams that can help our community and the nation.
Hillary, white folks didn't want to touch our hair. So it gave birth to an industry of barbers and beauticians. I mean, white folks, Mr. Johnson, as you well know, didn't want to bury our bodies. And here comes Cage and Leak Funeral Homes and all of these people, Mr. Johnson, who at one time or another came through your front doors, sought your help and assistance to start their businesses. In other words, we did, in an odd kind of way, Hillary, Mr. Johnson, we did, we turned to each other in segregation. Hillary?
I think that's a really important message right now when so many things are happening in our community. And a lot of the call is, how can we help each other in a time when other people not only don't want to help us, they want to pull the rug out from under us. They want to deny our brilliance, our excellence, and block our access to mainstream markets. So some of the big lessons that I learned working with Mr. Johnson were around issues of mentoring and sponsoring each other and helping each other. We see Mr. Johnson be mentored by S.B. Fuller, who was one of the most successful Black business people in the country at the time. Mr. Fuller taught Mr. Johnson to identify his gifts and talents and to match his gifts and talents with a need in the world, and that God did not intend for him to be poor. We also see Mr. Johnson being mentored by William Faulkner. Dr. Faulkner was his minister, and his minister taught him that the struggle of climbing brings the growth, the personal growth and development, and also that a good man with money can do a lot of good in the world, which you've been talking to. And we also, I also learned a lot about how large Black Chicago's business community was, that there was a volume as thick as the Yellow Pages used to be, filled with Black businesses. And Mr. Johnson tells stories of how Black business owners came together to help each other learn more about how to build their business and how to access markets. And so some of these are principles and strategies that are very relevant today.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, some final thoughts from Mr. Johnson, and hopefully in the final 2 minutes, we have a 10-minute segment coming. I hope Mr. Johnson can offer all of us some hope. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Mr. George Johnson.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This ad is brought to you by Care for the Injured, which is not a law firm. Past results don't guarantee future outcomes. Recovery depends on case details. Did you or a loved one take the birth control shot Depo-Provera and later develop a brain tumor? You are not alone. Thousands of women in the U.S. have been affected and deserve compensation. Depo-Provera, a widely used birth control injection, has been linked to serious brain tumors like meningiomas. If you use Depo-Provera for at least a year and were diagnosed with a brain tumor, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Our network of attorneys fight for the rights of women like you, women who were never warned about the risk of birth control shots. Our caring legal team is standing by to help you get the justice and compensation you deserve. The sooner you call, the sooner we can begin working on your case. Call 800-256-1276 now for a free confidential case review. That's 800-256-1276. Call 800-256-1276.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's cal-cruise-news.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2024, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-652-1714. That's 800-652-1714. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-652-1714 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is none other than the Honorable George Johnson, one of the most profound and luminarious figures in American history in the last quarter, half of the 20th century. That's who he is. Our movements don't operate for free. They require resourceful, thoughtful, and conscious business persons to say, this makes sense. This makes sense for Black people. This makes sense for our community. Hillary, I'd like to hear from you some of the thoughts and benefits of the work environment people are still fighting for today. Before I ask Mr. Johnson a couple of final questions, and then hopefully he can conclude for us all on some hope. Hillary?
Yeah, Mr. Johnson was a tremendous trailblazer. So at a time when Black people were struggling to access mainstream employment, he was one of the go-to employers in Chicago. He offered his employees an above-market salary. He employed women all the way from the factory floor into the C-suite. He offered profit sharing for all his employees, healthcare benefits, on-site healthcare, paid vacation, 4-day holiday weekends, tuition reimbursement before the government gave a tax break for it, maternity leave with a guaranteed job upon return, and a subsidized company cafeteria so that people's paychecks actually made it home. So he was so far ahead of the workforce today, and he employed a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforce and practices.
That's 60 years ago.
60 years ago. This is why I say he's such a trailblazer and such a forerunner, and practice things we can't even wrap our heads around today.
Mr. Johnson, can you offer some advice to today's entrepreneurs? Obviously, you were born in Jim Crow. You lived through the latter half of Jim Crow and then witnessed the civil rights movement, obviously Brown versus the Board of Education, the death of Emmett Till. Your business was here in Chicago when that funeral was taking place, Leak Funeral Home, Cage, Slaughter. You've seen it all. Martin Luther King Jr. in Marquette Park, Jesse Jackson on Drexel Avenue. You've seen the ebbs and flows of how we've been treated over nearly a century of your life. We're living in some pretty difficult times right now. Share with your thoughts on how you persevered and how we can persevere.
Well, to go into business today, you've got to have a product that is superior to the competition that of the businesses that you're going into, and And you got it has to be something that people need or want and that they can value. You got to have a burning desire to succeed, and you have to be willing to work your butt off. And I would say that you ought to have a goal to be the best in the business you choose, and to really help you, to really help yourself, help people. Be the best in the field that you're in. Put your customers' interests ahead of your own. Help people. And if you serve your customers well, they're going to make you successful. So love your customers and do what I did. Follow the golden rule.
You know, I think it's I remember when I was growing up to drive down the Dan Ryan Expressway and to see the sign of your business. It was so large, and you made a conscious decision that Black people needed to see this organization, to see this business, to better understand that we could too build businesses and be successful. I think of the other model, which of course was one of your contemporaries, John H. Johnson, who built that building downtown on State Street. And I remember when we would drive by both buildings, your building and Mr. Johnson's building, Ebony and Jet, and obviously Afrosheen and your company, JPC, it was the most amazing thing for a generation to be able to say that we could, that you represented the embodiment of human possibility for us. You set out to do that, didn't you, Mr. Johnson?
Absolutely. Mr. Fuller told me a long time ago that Black folks didn't think they could do what they see white folks doing. But if they saw Black folks doing something, they thought they can do that. And that was a great incentive.
Hillary, your thoughts on the significance of that kind of leadership in an era when people were telling us we couldn't be nobody? Here comes George Johnson saying, I am somebody.
I'm smiling because your father came to my high school in Cleveland, and I have a photograph of him. And we said, I am somebody. So representation matters, and even today. And so we believe that we can do what we see people who look like us do. People who look like like us create opportunities for other people like us when other people are not necessarily willing to do that. And it's important to see people who have such a vision for excellence, and not only excellence in terms of the products that they create and the way that they conduct their business, but also in terms of their treatment of humanity and their understanding of the importance of things like the golden morality and principles like the golden rule. So
we're also talking about a man whose scope, while it may have been centered on the south side of Chicago, we're talking about hair care products that ended up over the entire continent of Africa, Caribbean, Brazil, Jamaica, locking our hair. I mean, Mr. Johnson was and is one of the most historic figures that has ever existed in the African American community in life.
Yes, so his $250 initial investment, I believe by 2030 will be a $32 billion industry.
All of that's chronicled in his book, Afrosheen, How I Revolutionized an Industry with the Golden Rule from Soul Train to Wall Street. George E. Johnson is the author with Hillary Beard. Listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Afrosheen. I want you to get your book right now here on KBLA and at radio stations across the country. We are going to be promoting Mr. Johnson's work. It's all chronicled right here. Our generation in the current time, what we need to do and why we need to do it. Mr. Johnson, maybe some closing thoughts for this generation.
Stay close to the Lord.
I do think we have to be centered. there is no doubt, Hillary, at this hour and at this time, that we need luminaries like Mr. Johnson to tell their story. And I hope those who are listening will reach out. Mr. Johnson, Hillary, how can we support Mr. Johnson in this particular endeavor in his work?
Well, I think we can support Mr. Johnson, support each other by purchasing AfroSheen, reading AfroSheen, and practicing the principles, not only following the golden rule as a spiritual principle and ethos within ourselves, but by working with each other to support each other and build businesses in a time when the world isn't feeling so friendly.
And there's nothing wrong with building them close to our community. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest has been Mr. George Johnson and Hillary Beard. Thank you for joining us. Until tomorrow.
If you got hit, even if you were not driving, you need to try this.
Because if you were in a car accident in the last year, you could be owed a large cash payment.